The crystal chandeliers of the Metropolitan Grand Ballroom cast dancing shadows across marble floors so polished they reflected the designer gowns like mirrors. Eleanor Whitmore adjusted her Cartier bracelet, the diamonds catching the light as she surveyed the charity gala with the practiced eye of someone who had attended 100 such events. At 42, she had perfected the art of looking interested while being supremely bored. The annual Children's Hope Foundation Gala was the social event of the Manhattan fall season, where old money mingled with new, where business deals were sealed over champagne, and where appearances meant everything. Eleanor's husband, Richard, stood across the room discussing mergers with a group of CEOs, his silver hair and confident posture marking him as a man of influence. Near the silent auction table, Maya Rodriguez smoothed down her simple black dress for the third time in as many minutes. At 28, she felt desperately out of place among the sea of Valentino and Versace. The dress was from Target, carefully chosen because it was the most elegant thing she could afford on her restaurant server salary. Her invitation had come through her late mother's connection to the foundation, a final gift from a woman who had volunteered there for years before cancer claimed her 6 months ago. Maya's daughter, Sophie, was 7 years old and currently staying with Mrs. Chun, their elderly neighbor who charged $20 for babysitting instead of the $60 most sitters demanded. $20 Maya could sometimes spare. $60 she could not. Every decision in Maya's life came down to mathematics, cold calculations of what could be stretched, what could be sacrificed, what could wait another month. She had come tonight because the foundation had sent a personal note mentioning her mother's dedication, and because saying no felt like dishonoring Maria Rodriguez's memory. Also, if she was honest with herself, because for one evening she wanted to remember what it felt like to be somewhere beautiful, to pretend that life hadn't become an endless cycle of double shifts and overdue notices. Eleanor noticed Maya immediately. It was the shoes that gave her away, black flats with a scuff on the left toe, paired with a dress that, while clean and pressed, screamed department store. Eleanor felt a familiar spark of superiority. These charity events always attracted a handful of nobodies desperate to brush shoulders with their betters. The evening progressed with speeches and wine. Maya found herself gravitating toward the appetizer table not because she was hungry, though she was, but because it gave her something to do with her hands. She carefully selected a small bruschetta, aware that taking too much would draw attention. That's when Eleanor made her approach, champagne flute in hand, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Excuse me, dear," she said, her voice carrying that particular tone wealthy women use when addressing service staff. "I think you might be at the wrong event. The staff entrance is around back." Maya felt heat flood her face. Several nearby guests turned to look. "I'm not staff. I'm a guest." Eleanor's eyebrows rose in exaggerated surprise. "Oh, how interesting. I know everyone on the guest list, and I don't recall your name. Perhaps there's been some mistake? My mother volunteered here for 12 years. Maria Rodriguez. The foundation invited me." Eleanor took a delicate sip of her champagne. "How charitable of them. Though I must say this event does have a dress code. Perhaps next time you could make a bit more of an effort? We do have standards to maintain." Maya's hands trembled slightly. She wanted to leave, to run out of this gilded cage and never return. But her mother's face flashed in her mind. Maria Rodriguez had cleaned houses for families like the Whitmores her entire life, had smiled through their condescension, had taught Maya that dignity wasn't found in designer labels, but in how you treated others. "I'll keep that in mind," Maya said quietly, her voice steady despite the humiliation burning through her. Eleanor was about to continue when the lights dimmed. A hush fell over the ballroom as a spotlight illuminated the stage. The foundation director, a nervous-looking man named Charles Patterson, approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention. We have a very special guest this evening, someone whose generosity has made tonight possible. Please welcome our primary benefactor and the evening's keynote speaker, Mr. Vincent Marcello." The name sent a ripple through the crowd. Vincent Marcello was a legend in New York, a self-made man who had built a business empire from nothing. Some whispered he had connections to organized crime families, though nothing had ever been proven. Others said he was simply ruthless in business, willing to do what others wouldn't. What everyone agreed on was that crossing Vincent Marcello was a mistake you made only once. He emerged from the side entrance, and Maya felt her breath catch. Tall and broad-shouldered, perhaps in his mid-40s, Vincent Marcello moved with the quiet confidence of a man who knew exactly how much power he wielded. His tuxedo was impeccably tailored, his dark hair touched with gray at the temples, his face hard-lined but undeniably handsome. But it was his eyes that struck her, dark and intense, the kind of eyes that seemed to see everything. Eleanor preened, straightening her posture. The Marcello family, despite the rumors, was royalty in certain New York circles. She had been trying to get an invitation to one of Vincent's exclusive gatherings for months. Vincent took the microphone, his voice deep and commanding. "Good evening. I'm not much for speeches, so I'll keep this brief. I grew up in the Bronx, in a neighborhood where charity wasn't a social event but a matter of survival. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep food on our table. I remember what it meant when someone showed kindness without expecting recognition." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "That's why I support this foundation. Not for tax write-offs or social climbing, but because children like I was deserve a chance. Real support, not just empty gestures and photo opportunities." The room shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the usual rubber chicken circuit speech praising the attendees for their generosity. "I've noticed something at these events," Vincent continued, his tone sharpening. "There's often a lot of talk about helping those less fortunate, but when someone who actually needs help shows up, they're treated like they don't belong. Like their presence somehow tarnishes the gold leaf." Eleanor felt a prickle of unease, though she couldn't say why. Earlier this evening, Vincent said, his voice dropping to something more dangerous, "I witnessed something that reminded me why I usually avoid these gatherings. I saw a woman, a guest invited by this foundation to honor her late mother's service, being humiliated by someone who clearly believes wealth equals worth." Maya's heart stopped. He had seen. He had been watching. Vincent's gaze locked onto Eleanor with laser precision. "Mrs. Whitmore, isn't it? Tell me, what exactly are the standards you mentioned? The cost of the dress? The brand of the shoes? Or perhaps the size of the donation check?" The ballroom had gone completely silent. Eleanor's face drained of color. I didn't mean, you didn't mean to be cruel in front of witnesses," Vincent interrupted. "But you meant every word you said. I know your type, Mrs. Whitmore. You write a check and think it buys you the right to look down on others. You donate to a children's charity while teaching your own children that people are only valuable if they can afford the right costume." Richard Whitmore moved toward his wife, but Vincent held up a hand. "Stay where you are, Richard. Your wife's moment, not yours." Vincent descended from the stage, the crowd parting as he walked directly toward Maya. She stood frozen, unsure whether she should be grateful or mortified that this powerful stranger had made her humiliation so public. He stopped in front of her, and for a moment, something unexpected flickered in his eyes. Not pity, which she would have hated, but recognition. As if he saw in her something familiar, something that resonated. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice gentler now. "Maya Rodriguez," she managed. "Maya Rodriguez," he repeated, as if committing it to memory. "Your mother was Maria Rodriguez, the woman who volunteered in the children's reading program?" Maya nodded, surprised he knew. "She tutored my nephew 3 years ago when he was struggling with dyslexia. Never asked for a cent, never made him feel stupid, just showed up every week with patience and books. He's in high school now, honor roll. Because of her." Tears pricked Maya's eyes. "I didn't know." Vincent turned back to the crowd, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "This is what real charity looks like. Not the self-congratulatory nonsense we engage in while sipping champagne." Maria Rodriguez gave her time, her energy, her heart. She didn't do it for recognition or tax deductions. She did it because she genuinely cared. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then looked back at Maya. "I'm doubling the foundation's budget this year on one condition: that they create a scholarship in Maria Rodriguez's name for single parents pursuing education. And I want you," he pointed at Maya, "on the committee that selects recipients." Maya's mouth opened, but no words came. Furthermore, Vincent said, turning his attention back to Eleanor, Mrs. Whitmore. I believe you were about to make a significant donation tonight? Eleanor stammered. Yes, 25,000. Make it 50, Vincent said flatly. And I want a public apology to Ms. Rodriguez. Now, the room held its collective breath. Everyone knew what Vincent Marcello was really saying. This wasn't a request. Cross him here and every door in New York would close. The Whitmore family's standing, their business connections, their social position. All of it could crumble if Eleanor chose pride over survival. Richard Whitmore understood immediately. Eleanor, he said urgently, his voice tight. Eleanor's carefully constructed world tilted. She could see the calculation in her husband's eyes, the fear beneath his corporate composure. She thought of their daughter's upcoming debutante ball, of the country club membership they'd waited years to obtain, of every connection that made them somebody. She turned to Maya, her voice shaking. I apologize. That was inexcusable. I'm sorry. It wasn't sincere, but it was surrender, and everyone in the room knew it. Vincent nodded curtly. The foundation will receive your increased donation by Monday. He turned back to Maya, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. Ms. Rodriguez, would you join me for dinner tomorrow evening? I'd like to discuss your mother's work and how we might expand her legacy. Maya stood outside La Canda Verde the following evening, staring at the restaurant's elegant entrance with growing panic. She had looked up the place that morning and nearly fainted at the menu prices. A single appetizer cost more than her weekly grocery budget. She wore the same black dress from the gala because it was literally the only option she had that wasn't stained with coffee or torn from catching on the subway turnstile. A black Mercedes pulled up, and Vincent emerged from the back seat. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, but his tie was slightly loosened, giving him a less intimidating appearance than the night before. Ms. Rodriguez, he greeted her with a slight smile. Thank you for coming. Mr. Marcello, she replied, hyper-aware of the doorman watching them. Vincent, please. Mr. Marcello was my father, and trust me, you don't want to associate me with him. He guided her inside with a light touch on her elbow. The maitre d' greeted Vincent by name and led them to a private corner table, away from the other diners. Maya noticed how the staff treated him with a mixture of respect and wariness, as if he were royalty who might suddenly become dangerous. Once they were seated, Vincent poured water for both of them, a surprisingly normal gesture that somehow made Maya relax slightly. I'm going to be direct because I don't like wasting time, Vincent said. What happened last night wasn't just about defending your mother's memory. I hate bullies. Always have. People like Eleanor Whitmore represent everything wrong with this city's so-called elite. Maya took a sip of water, buying time to formulate a response. I appreciate what you did, but you didn't have to humiliate her publicly. Vincent's eyes darkened. She humiliated you first. In my world, you don't get to throw the first punch and then complain about the counterstrike. Your world, Maya repeated carefully. There are a lot of rumors about your world, Mr. Marcello. Vincent, he corrected again. And yes, there are. Some are true. Many aren't. But I'll tell you what is true. I came from nothing, just like your mother did. I built everything I have through hard work and by understanding that in this city, you're either predator or prey. I chose not to be prey. The waiter arrived, and Vincent ordered for both of them without asking, which would have annoyed Maya except the food sounded incredible, and she had no idea what half the menu items were anyway. After the waiter left, Vincent leaned forward. Tell me about your situation. The truth, not the polite version. Maya hesitated. She had spent years perfecting the art of minimizing her struggles, of making everything sound manageable to avoid pity or judgment. Why do you want to know? Because I'm considering offering you a job, and I need to understand what you're working with. Maya's heart jumped. A job? Doing what? Vincent smiled slightly. We'll get to that. First, the truth. Something in his tone, the directness of it, the lack of false sympathy, made Maya decide to be honest. I work as a server at a diner in Queens. Double shifts most days. My daughter Sophie is 7. Her father left when I was 6 months pregnant, and I haven't heard from him since. My mother helped me with childcare until she got sick. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She died 6 months ago. Vincent's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, letting her continue. The medical bills wiped out everything we had saved. Her life insurance barely covered the funeral. I'm 3 months behind on rent. My landlord is threatening eviction. Sophie needs new shoes because she's growing, and the school is asking for money for a field trip I can't afford. I haven't bought myself new clothes in 2 years. I eat whatever Sophie doesn't finish because groceries are expensive and she needs proper nutrition more than I do. She paused, surprised by how much she had revealed, how the words had poured out like, "Last night at that gala I felt like a fraud, like I was stealing oxygen from people who actually belonged there. When that woman, Eleanor, called me out, part of me agreed with her. I didn't belong." Vincent was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried an edge of anger that wasn't directed at her. "That's exactly what people like her want you to think. That you're less than. That struggling means failing. It's garbage." The waiter returned with their first course, some kind of seafood dish that looked like art on a plate. Maya picked up her fork, acutely aware she probably wasn't using the right one. "My mother was a seamstress in Naples," Vincent said suddenly. "She came to New York when she was 19 with nothing but a suitcase and determination. My father was already here working construction. He drank too much, had a temper, thought his fists solved problems." Maya looked up, surprised by the confession. "I was 12 when he tried to hit my mother one too many times. I put him in the hospital." Vincent's voice was matter-of-fact, as if describing the weather. "Spent a year in juvenile detention. When I got out, my mother was dead. Heart attack, they said, but I knew it was from years of stress and fear." "I'm sorry," Maya said softly. Vincent shrugged. "I tell you this because you need to understand something. The world doesn't reward suffering. It doesn't care about your struggle or your virtue. It respects power and the willingness to use it." "That sounds cynical." "It's realistic." Vincent took a bite of his food, then continued. "After my mother died, I could have gone 2 ways. I could have become my father, angry and destructive. Or I could have become something else. I chose to build an empire where people like him couldn't touch people like her." "What kind of empire?" Maya asked, knowing she was treading on dangerous ground. Vincent smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I own restaurants, real estate, construction companies, logistics operations. All legitimate businesses. I also have connections that help me protect what's mine and help those I choose to help." The unspoken part hung in the air between them. The connections everyone whispered about. "Here's what I'm offering," Vincent said, shifting the conversation. "I need someone to manage the charitable arm of my businesses. Someone who understands what it means to struggle, who won't treat beneficiaries like props for photo ops. The salary is $200,000 a year, full benefits, including health insurance that will cover Sophie completely." Maya nearly choked on her water. $200,000? That's more than I've made in the last 5 years combined. It's what the position is worth. You'll work hard, make real decisions about where money goes, coordinate with organizations, and yes, occasionally attend events where you'll meet people far less pleasant than Eleanor Whitmore. "Why me?" Maya asked. "You don't know me. I have no experience in this field. You have the only experience that matters. You know what it's like to need help and not receive it. Plus," Vincent's eyes held hers, "you stood in that ballroom last night and faced humiliation without breaking. That takes more strength than most of these charity board members will ever possess." Maya felt tears threatening. This was too much, too fast, too impossibly good to be true. "There has to be a catch," she whispered. Vincent leaned back in his chair. "The catch is that working for me comes with complications. People will talk. They'll assume things about our relationship, about how you got the job. Some will try to use you to get to me. Others will resent you for having access they don't. And there are people, competitors, who might see you as a target to hurt me." The warmth that had been building in Maya's chest turned cold. "Are you saying I'd be in danger?" "I'm saying I'd protect you," Vincent replied firmly. "Anyone who works for me is under my protection. But you need to understand what that means. It means being associated with Vincent Marcello, with everything that name carries." Maya thought of Sophie, of the eviction notice, of eating ramen noodles for the third night in a row because chicken was too expensive. "Can I think about it?" she asked. Vincent nodded. "You have 48 hours. Here," he pulled a business card from his pocket. "My private number. Call me with your decision." They finished dinner with lighter conversation. Vincent asked about Sophie, about what she liked, what she dreamed of being. Maya found herself relaxing, laughing at a story about Vincent's nephew attempting to cook pasta and nearly burning down the kitchen. When they left the restaurant, Vincent's driver was waiting. "Let me take you home." Maya started to refuse, then realized how tired she was, how much the subway fare would cost. She accepted. In the car, Vincent was quiet, looking out the window at the passing city lights. When they reached her apartment building in Queens, a worn brownstone with peeling paint and cracked steps, he didn't comment on the neighborhood's obvious poverty. "Thank you for dinner," Maya said. "And for the offer. I'll call you soon." Vincent caught her hand as she reached for the door handle. His touch was gentle but firm. "Maya, whatever you decide, last night at the gala, you didn't deserve that treatment. Your mother would be proud of how you handled yourself." Maya felt tears sting her eyes again. "Thank you." She climbed the stairs to her third-floor apartment, her mind racing. Inside, Mrs. Chun was reading to Sophie, who ran to hug her mother. "Mama, how was your dinner?" "It was interesting, sweetie," Maya said, holding her daughter close. After Mrs. Chun left and Sophie was asleep, Maya sat at her kitchen table surrounded by unpaid bills. The eviction notice stared at her. 3 days to come up with 3 months' rent or they were out. She picked up Vincent's card, turning it over in her hands. $200,000. Health insurance. Protection. But at what cost? Maya called Vincent at 7 the next morning, before she could talk herself out of it. He answered on the second ring, his voice alert despite the early hour. "Ms. Rodriguez." "I accept," Maya said, her heart pounding. "The job. I accept your offer." There was a pause. Then Vincent's voice came through, warmer than she'd heard it. "Good. Can you start Monday?" "Monday? That's 3 days away. Is that a problem?" Maya looked around her cramped apartment, at the stack of bills at Sophie's bedroom door. "No, no problem. My assistant will email you the contract and onboarding information." Vincent paused. "Maya, you made the right choice." After they hung up, Maya sat in stunned silence until Sophie emerged, rubbing sleep from her eyes. The next few days passed in a blur. The contract arrived, professionally prepared by lawyers whose hourly rate probably exceeded her weekly salary. Maya read every word twice, looking for traps, but it was straightforward. Salary, benefits, job description, a non-disclosure agreement that made her stomach clench but nothing she couldn't live with. Saturday morning, a courier arrived with a package. Inside were 3 professional outfits, perfectly sized, from brands Maya recognized from magazine covers. A note in bold handwriting read, "First week essentials. Consider it a signing bonus." Sophie watched with wide eyes as Maya tried on a navy blue suit that fit like it had been made for her. "Mama, you look like a princess." "More like a businesswoman," Maya corrected, but she couldn't stop smiling at her reflection. Sunday night, Maya barely slept. She arranged for Sophie to attend an after-school program she'd previously couldn't afford. The first expense from her new salary that wouldn't arrive for 2 weeks but felt real enough to act on. Monday morning, Maya stood outside the Marcello building in Midtown, a gleaming tower of steel and glass that housed Vincent's various enterprises. She checked her reflection in the lobby windows, adjusting the suit jacket, then pushed through the revolving doors. The security guard directed her to the 32nd floor. The elevator ride felt eternal. When the doors opened, she stepped into an office space that screamed understated wealth. Dark wood, leather furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an efficient manner approached. "Ms. Rodriguez? I'm Angela Corso, Mr. Marcello's executive assistant." "Welcome." Angela led Maya through the office, explaining the layout, introducing her to staff members whose names blurred together. Finally, they reached a corner office with Maya's name already on the door. "Mr. Marcello had this prepared over the weekend," Angela explained. Your computer is set up, passwords are in the envelope on your desk, and your first meeting is in an hour. Meeting? With who? With Mr. Marcello and the heads of our charitable divisions. He wants you up to speed immediately. The next hour passed in frantic preparation. Maya reviewed files, tried to memorize names and organizations, and felt increasingly certain she was going to fail spectacularly. When Angela came to escort her to the conference room, Maya's hands were shaking. The conference room held 8 people, all older than Maya, all watching her with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed skepticism. Vincent sat at the head of the table, and when Maya entered, he stood. Everyone, this is Maya Rodriguez, our new Director of Charitable Operations. Maya, these are the people who will help you succeed. He went around the table with introductions. David Chun, CFO. Patricia Okonkwo, Legal Counsel. Marco Romano, Community Outreach. Each nodded or offered brief greetings, but Maya could feel their doubt radiating like heat. Vincent gestured for Maya to sit beside him. Let's begin. Maya, I want you to review our current charitable allocations and tell me what you think. He slid a folder across the table. Maya opened it, scanning the contents. Lists of organizations, donation amounts, budget projections. Her server instincts kicked in, the same analytical skills she'd used to memorize complex orders and manage multiple tables simultaneously. She noticed something immediately. You're giving $500,000 to the Manhattan Arts Collective? Patricia nodded. They're very prestigious. Good for our public image. Maya looked at Vincent. What do they actually do with the money? Gallery exhibitions, fundraisers, art education for select private schools. Patricia recited. So they teach art to kids whose parents can already afford art lessons, Maya said slowly. While there are community centers in the Bronx and Queens with no supplies at all. The room went quiet. Marco leaned forward, his expression hardening. The Arts Collective has connections that benefit our business relationships. Maya felt heat rise in her chest. I thought this was about actual charity, not networking disguised as generosity. Vincent's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. Continue. Emboldened, Maya flipped through more pages. The Riverside Prep Scholarship Fund. You're giving them $200,000 to send underprivileged kids to a school where the annual tuition is $60,000. So you're funding, what, 3 students? While that same money could provide after-school programs, tutoring, and supplies for hundreds of kids in public schools. David chin bristled. Riverside Prep has an excellent reputation for producing entitled rich kids who look down on people like me, Maya shot back. I'm not saying education isn't important, but this isn't efficient charity. This is buying social standing. Vincent leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. What would you do differently? Maya took a breath, aware that everyone was staring at her. I'd redirect funding to organizations with measurable impact. Community centers that provide meals, homework help, and safe spaces. Programs that teach practical skills. Scholarships that cover full expenses at public universities, not token spots at elite prep schools. And I'd require every organization we fund to report concrete outcomes, not just feel-good stories for annual reports. Patricia's voice was icy. Ms. Rodriguez, with all due respect, you've been here for 2 hours. Perhaps you should understand our existing commitments before suggesting we dismantle everything. Maya felt her confidence waver, but then she remembered Eleanor Whitmore's condescending smile, remembered eating ramen while Sophie slept, remembered her mother's funeral that she'd paid for with a predatory loan. With all due respect, Maya said, meeting Patricia's gaze, I've spent years on the receiving end of charity that helps the giver's conscience more than the recipient's life. I know the difference between actual help and performative generosity. And right now, you're performing. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya was certain she'd just torpedoed her new career before it even started. Then Vincent started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but genuine, full laughter that startled everyone in the room. This is exactly why I hired her, he said, looking around the table. Because she'll tell us the truth instead of what we want to hear. He turned to Maya. You have 6 months to restructure our charitable operations however you see fit. Full authority. Anyone here who has a problem with that can discuss it with me privately. No one spoke. Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into the work with fierce determination. She visited every organization currently receiving Marcelo funding, sat with program directors, talked to the people actually being served. Some organizations were genuinely effective. Many were not. She made cuts that generated angry phone calls from board members and socialites who'd been using the Marcelo name for their own prestige. She redirected funds to smaller, grassroots organizations that operated out of church basements and community centers. And slowly, reluctantly, the other executives began to respect her. David Chun admitted her budget reallocation made fiscal sense. Marco Romano saw community engagement increase. Even Patricia Okonkwo acknowledged that Maya's contracts with new organizations were more legally sound than previous arrangements. Vincent watched it all with quiet approval, occasionally appearing in Maya's office to review progress or simply to talk. Those conversations stretched longer as weeks passed, shifting from professional to personal. He asked about Sophie, remembered details Maya mentioned in passing, sent books when Maya mentioned Sophie loved reading. One evening, 6 weeks into the job, Maya was working late when Vincent knocked on her open door. "You're here past midnight," he observed. "Big presentation tomorrow for the board. Want to make sure I have everything perfect." Vincent entered, closing the door behind him. "Maya, you've already exceeded every expectation. You don't have to prove yourself anymore." Maya looked up from her laptop. "To them, maybe, but I still need to prove it to myself." Vincent studied her for a long moment. "You know, when I first saw you at that gala, I didn't plan to get involved. I usually ignore that kind of social cruelty. It's too common to address every instance. What changed your mind?" Vincent moved closer, leaning against her desk. "You didn't cry. You didn't run away. You stood there with your head up, taking the hit. It reminded me of my mother. The strength it takes to endure without breaking." The air in the office felt suddenly charged. Maya was acutely aware of how close Vincent was, of the intensity in his dark eyes. If you're watching this and rooting for Maya's journey, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Her story is just beginning, and the transformation ahead will surprise you in ways you can't imagine. Vincent straightened, breaking the moment. "Get some sleep. The board will approve whatever you present because I'll make sure they do." After he left, Maya sat in the quiet office, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with work stress. She was falling for Vincent Marcelo, and that terrified her more than any board presentation ever could. Because men like Vincent Marcelo didn't fall for single mothers from Queens who wore Target dresses. And even if by some miracle he felt something too, his world was dangerous, complicated, full of shadows she couldn't begin to understand. But as she packed up her laptop and headed home to Sophie, Maya couldn't shake the memory of how Vincent had looked at her, like she was something precious he'd unexpectedly discovered. 3 months into her position, Maya had transformed the Marcelo Foundation's charitable operations beyond recognition. The stuffy galas were replaced with community events where beneficiaries actually participated. The performative donations to prestigious institutions were redirected to grassroots programs that provided meals, education, and opportunity to families like hers had been. Sophie thrived in her new after-school program, making friends and bringing home artwork that Maya proudly displayed in their new apartment. Yes, new apartment. Vincent had insisted that living in a building with broken heating and questionable safety wasn't acceptable for his director of charitable operations. The 2-bedroom in a safe neighborhood with actual working appliances still made Maya cry sometimes when she woke up. But success bred resentment. Patricia Okonkwo cornered Maya in the break room one morning, her voice low and sharp. "You're making enemies, Maya. The Riverside Prep board chair called my office yesterday, furious about the funding cut. Do you understand these people have connections that could hurt us?" Maya poured her coffee steadily. "They have connections to protect their own interests, not to genuinely help struggling families. That's exactly why the funding needed to be redirected. You're naive if you think idealism protects you in this world." "Maybe," Maya replied, meeting Patricia's gaze. "But Vincent hired me for my perspective, not to maintain the status quo." Patricia's expression hardened. "Be careful, Maya. Vincent protects what's useful to him. The moment you stop being useful, that protection disappears. The warning echoed in Maya's mind as she returned to her office. She knew Patricia wasn't entirely wrong. Vincent's interest in her work was professional. The personal moments they'd shared, the late-night conversations, the way he remembered Sophie's favorite books, all of it could simply be how he managed valuable employees. That afternoon, Maya received a call from Sophie's school. Her daughter had been in a fight, unusual for gentle Sophie, who typically avoided conflict. Maya rushed to the school, her heart pounding. In the principal's office, Sophie sat with tear-stained cheeks while another girl, clearly from a wealthy family based on her designer uniform modifications, smirked beside her mother. The principal, Mrs. Davidson, looked uncomfortable. Ms. Rodriguez, Sophie struck another student. After that student called her mama a mafia whore, Sophie said defiantly, her small voice trembling but determined. Maya's blood turned to ice. The other mother, dripping in jewelry and condescension, sniffed. Children repeat what they hear. Perhaps if Ms. Rodriguez's professional relationships were more appropriate, my daughter wouldn't have learned such language. Maya wanted to scream, to rage, but years of swallowing anger for survival kicked in. She turned to Mrs. Davidson. What's being done about the bullying my daughter experienced? Mrs. Davidson shifted uncomfortably. Both girls will receive detention. Equal punishment for the victim and the aggressor. How progressive, Maya said coldly. She looked at the other mother. Your daughter verbally assaulted a 7-year-old with adult accusations she couldn't possibly understand. If you're looking for inappropriate behavior, start with your own parenting. She took Sophie's hand. We're leaving. In the car, Sophie finally broke down completely. Is it true, Mama? Are you with Mr. Marcello like that girl said? Maya pulled over, turning to face her daughter. Sophie, Mr. Marcello gave Mama a job because I'm good at helping people. That's all. People sometimes say mean things because they're jealous or don't understand. But she called you a bad word. She did. And she was wrong. Maya cupped Sophie's face. Listen to me carefully. People will always talk. They'll make assumptions and spread rumors. What matters is the truth and who we are. We are Rodriguez women, and we don't let anyone make us feel ashamed of surviving. That evening, after Sophie was asleep, Maya sat on her small balcony overlooking the city. Her phone rang. Vincent, I heard about the school incident, he said without preamble. Are you and Sophie okay? How did you already know? I have people who keep me informed about potential threats to my interests. His voice hardened. The woman involved, Jennifer Hastings. Her husband works in commercial real estate. He'll be receiving some unfortunate news about his upcoming developments tomorrow. Vincent, no. Maya stood abruptly. You can't destroy people's lives because their child was cruel to Sophie. I can do exactly that. No one attacks what's mine without consequences. Sophie isn't yours. I'm not yours. We work for you, that's all. The silence on the other end stretched painfully. When Vincent spoke again, his voice was carefully neutral. Is that how you see it? Just employment? Maya's heart hammered. I don't know what this is, but I know that using your power to punish a 7-year-old girl's family because of schoolyard cruelty isn't the answer. I'm not punishing the child. I'm making sure the adults understand there are consequences for spreading vicious rumors that affect you and Sophie. The rumors exist because people see how you look at me, Maya said softly. How you remember details about Sophie's life. How you check on us. Vincent, whatever this is between us, it's becoming obvious to others, and it's making us targets. So what do you want me to do? Ignore you? Pretend I don't care? Maya's breath caught. Do you care? Vincent was quiet for so long Maya thought he'd hung up. Then yes, more than I should. More than is smart or safe for either of us. Maya closed her eyes. Care too. But Vincent, your world is complicated in ways I'm only beginning to understand. And I have Sophie to think about. I can't let her become collateral damage because her mother fell for her boss. Is that what happened? You fell for me? Maya laughed shakily. How could I not? You're brilliant, powerful, surprisingly kind when you let yourself be. You've changed our lives in ways I can never repay. But that doesn't mean this can work. Meet me tomorrow night, Vincent said urgently. My place. Let me show you something, explain things properly. Then you can make an informed decision about whether whatever this is, can work. Maya hesitated. Vincent, I don't think that's wise. Please. His voice carried a vulnerability she'd never heard before. Just give me one evening to be honest with you about who I really am. Against her better judgment, Maya agreed. The next evening, Vincent's driver picked her up after she'd dropped Sophie at Mrs. Chen's for a sleepover. The car wound through Manhattan, eventually stopping at a luxury high-rise overlooking Central Park. Vincent's penthouse was surprisingly understated. Expensive, certainly, but comfortable rather than ostentatious. Books lined the walls, family photographs sat on tables, and the kitchen looked actually used. Vincent greeted her in jeans and a casual shirt, the first time she'd seen him dressed down. He looked younger, more approachable, though no less handsome. Wine? He offered. Maya nodded, too nervous to speak. They sat in the living room and Vincent began to talk. He told her about his childhood in detail, the poverty, the violence, the desperate scramble for survival. He explained how he'd built his first legitimate business, a construction company, by working 18-hour days and underbidding every competitor. Then the other part, the connections he'd made with organized crime families, not as a member but as someone useful. The protection they offered in exchange for occasional favors. The money laundering accusations that had been investigated but never proven. The violence he'd witnessed and sometimes participated in to protect what was his. I've never killed anyone, Vincent said, looking directly at Maya. But I've hurt people. I've made decisions that ruined lives. I operate in gray areas that would horrify most civilians. I'm telling you this because if we're going to be anything more than employer and employee, you need to understand exactly who I am. Maya processed this, her mind racing. Why me, Vincent? You could have anyone. Someone from your world who understands these complications. Vincent moved closer, his intensity focused entirely on her. Because you're real. Everyone in my world wants something from me, fears me, or is trying to use me. You looked at me that first night and saw a man who helped you, not a weapon or a resource. You challenge me, push back when I'm wrong, and you've built something beautiful from the opportunity one gave you. He reached out, gently taking her hand. I haven't felt this way about anyone since I was too young to understand what it meant. You terrify me, Maya Rodriguez, because caring about you makes you a target, and I'm not sure I can protect you from everything that comes with being mine. Then don't make me yours, Maya whispered. Just be with me. No ownership, no possession. Just two people who care about each other figuring it out. Vincent's expression softened. I don't know how to do that. Everything I have, I protect absolutely. Then learn. Because I won't be something you own, Vincent. I'll be your partner or I'll be nothing at all. For a long moment, Vincent searched her face. Then he leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. When his lips met hers, it was tender and careful, nothing like the ruthless businessman or the dangerous man he'd described. When they broke apart, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. I'll try. For you, I'll try to be less of what I've always been. And I'll try to understand your world better, Maya replied. But Sophie comes first. Always, always, Vincent agreed. I wouldn't respect you if it were any other way. They spent the evening talking, kissing, building something fragile and precious between them. When Vincent's driver took Maya home just before midnight, she felt like she was floating. But as she entered her apartment, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was simple but chilling. Marcelo's whore should know when she's out of her league. Walk away or your daughter pays the price. Attached was a photo of Sophie at school, circled in red. Maya's hands shook as she stared at the photo. Sophie's innocent face, circled like a target. The threat was clear, direct, and utterly terrifying in a way nothing else in her life had ever been. She called Vincent immediately, her voice breaking. Someone sent me a threat. About Sophie. I'm on my way. Don't leave your apartment. Lock everything. Vincent arrived within 20 minutes, accompanied by two men Maya recognized from the office building security. He took her phone, examined the message, his jaw clenching tighter with each second. Do you recognize the number? Maya asked. It's a burner. Vincent's voice was dangerously calm. the kind of calm that preceded violence. But threatening a child narrows down the suspects considerably. Most people in my world have lines they won't cross. This is someone either desperate or stupid. He made several calls, speaking in rapid Italian that Maya couldn't follow. Within an hour, her apartment had been transformed into a fortress. Security cameras, additional locks, and one of Vincent's men stationed in a car outside. Sophie stays home from school tomorrow, Vincent said. I'm moving both of you to a secure location until we identify who sent this. No, Maya said firmly. We're not running and hiding. That's exactly what they want. Vincent turned to her, his expression hard. Maya, this isn't negotiable. Someone threatened your daughter. And if we hide, they win. They prove that threatening Sophie is an effective way to control me. Maya's voice strengthened. I won't teach my daughter that we run when things get scary. Vincent's eyes flashed with frustration. This isn't about being brave, it's about being alive. Then make me safe another way. Maya stepped closer to him. You told me last night you protect what's yours. So protect us, but don't lock us away like prisoners. The standoff lasted several tense seconds before Vincent exhaled sharply. Fine. But you don't go anywhere without security. Sophie doesn't leave your sight unless she's with my people. And the moment I say it's too dangerous, you listen. Agreed? Agreed. Over the next 48 hours, Vincent's network went to work. Maya learned that his connections ran deeper than she'd imagined. Former police officers, private investigators, technology experts who could trace digital footprints through layers of encryption. The break came from an unexpected source. Angela Corso, Vincent's executive assistant, appeared at Maya's office with a grim expression. I need to speak with you and Vincent. Privately. In Vincent's office, Angela placed a folder on the desk. I've been reviewing expense reports and correspondence. Patricia Okonkwo has been meeting regularly with Gerald Hastings. Jennifer Hastings' husband, Maya said, pieces clicking together. The woman from Sophie's school. Angela nodded. But it goes deeper. Gerald Hastings lost 3 major development deals in the past month, all of which went to Marcello's subsidiaries. He's hemorrhaging money and blaming Vincent. Patricia has been feeding him inside information, trying to undermine Maya's initiatives to make Vincent look weak. Vincent's face was stone. Patricia works for me. She resents Maya's rapid rise and the authority you gave her, Angela explained. She's been working with Hastings to discredit the charitable restructuring, hoping you'd fire Maya. When that didn't work, they escalated. To threatening a child, Vincent said softly, which was somehow more frightening than if he'd shouted. There's more, Angela continued. Patricia's daughter attends the same school as Sophie. She's the one who started the rumors, fed by information her mother provided about Maya and Vincent's relationship. Maya felt sick. She coached her own child to bully Sophie? Angela's expression was sympathetic. I'm sorry, Maya. I should have caught this sooner. Vincent stood, his movements controlled but radiating barely contained fury. Where is Patricia now? In her office. Angela hesitated. Vincent, if you do what I think you're planning, there will be legal consequences. Not if it's just a conversation, Vincent replied. Call building security. Have them escort Patricia to conference room B. And get our lawyers on standby. 30 minutes later, Patricia sat in the conference room flanked by 2 security guards, her usual composure cracking as Vincent, Maya, and the company's legal team entered. Vincent placed printed copies of Patricia's correspondence with Gerald Hastings on the table. Corporate espionage. Breach of fiduciary duty. Conspiracy to threaten a minor. Vincent's voice was ice. Any one of these could send you to prison. All 3 together? You'll be lucky to see daylight before you're 70. Patricia's face drained of color. I don't know what you think you have, but I have rights. Rights you forfeited when you threatened a 7-year-old child. Vincent leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign a full confession. You're going to testify against Gerald Hastings. And you're going to publicly apologize to Maya Rodriguez. And if I refuse? Vincent smiled without humor. Then I'll use every resource at my disposal to destroy you. Your law license revoked. Your reputation shattered. Every firm in New York will know you can't be trusted. Your daughter's college fund, drained by legal fees. Your husband's dental practice, buried under sudden IRS audits. I can make your life a special kind of hell without ever breaking a law. Patricia looked at the lawyers, desperate. He can't do this. Actually, the senior counsel said carefully, given the evidence of corporate espionage and the threat against a minor, we're obligated to report this to authorities regardless. Mr. Marcello is offering you a chance to mitigate the damage. I strongly advise you take it. It took 6 hours of negotiation, but eventually Patricia signed everything, her hands shaking. She'd cooperate fully, testify against Hastings, and resign immediately. In exchange, Vincent wouldn't press charges that could result in prison time, though her legal career was effectively over. When Patricia was finally escorted from the building, Maya sank into a chair, exhausted. Is it really over? With Patricia, yes. Vincent sat beside her. Hastings will be dealt with separately. By tomorrow, he'll have problems that make his previous business failures look minor. Vincent, Maya said carefully, I know you're protecting us, but destroying people's lives in revenge. This isn't revenge, Vincent interrupted. It's making an example. Everyone in my world needs to understand that threatening you or Sophie brings consequences they can't survive. That's not cruelty, Maya. It's necessity. Maya understood even if she didn't entirely agree. In Vincent's world, weakness invited attack. Mercy was often mistaken for vulnerability. That evening, Vincent insisted on taking Maya and Sophie to dinner at a family-style Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, far from Manhattan's elite establishments. Sophie, who had been understandably scared by the increased security presence, slowly relaxed as Vincent told her exaggerated stories about his nephew's various mishaps. Mr. Marcello, Sophie asked seriously, are you Mama's boyfriend? Vincent glanced at Maya, who held her breath. That depends, he said to Sophie. Would you be okay if I was? Sophie considered this with 7-year-old gravity. Will you be nice to Mama? She's had a hard time. I'll be as nice to your Mama as she'll let me be, Vincent promised. And you won't leave like my daddy did? Vincent's expression softened. Sophie, I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen, because life doesn't work that way. But I can promise that if I'm your Mama's boyfriend, I'm choosing to be here, and I don't walk away from people I choose. Sophie nodded, satisfied. Okay then, you can be her boyfriend. Maya laughed through sudden tears. I'm glad I have your permission, sweetie. Later, after Sophie was asleep and Vincent was preparing to leave, he pulled Maya close. I meant what I told her. I'm choosing this, choosing you even though it complicates everything. Maya kissed him softly. I'm choosing you too. Complications and all. The following week, Maya presented her 6-month report to the board. The restructured charitable operations had touched 3 times as many families with the same budget, created measurable improvements in education and food security, and generated genuine positive press rather than performative publicity. The board, thoroughly briefed on Patricia's betrayal and departure, approved Maya's initiatives unanimously. Several members who had initially been skeptical approached her afterward to offer genuine congratulations. David Chun pulled her aside. I owe you an apology. I thought Vincent hired you as a vanity project. I was wrong. You've done remarkable work. Thank you, Maya said, meaning it. That evening, Vincent took Maya to the rooftop of his building. The city spread out below them, millions of lights representing millions of stories. 6 months ago, you were serving coffee and dodging eviction notices, Vincent said. Now you're changing lives and making board members nervous. How does it feel? Maya leaned against him. Surreal. Wonderful. Terrifying. Like I'm waiting for someone to realize I don't belong here and send me back. Vincent turned her to face him. You belong exactly where you are. Not because I gave you a chance, but because you seized it and built something meaningful. That's all you, Maya. With help, she corrected. With protection and resources most people never get, which you've used to help others get those same opportunities. Vincent tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. That's the difference between you and people like Patricia or Eleanor Whitmore. They take opportunities and hoard them. You take them and multiply them. Maya kissed him, pouring gratitude and love and hope into it. When they broke apart, she whispered, Thank you for seeing me that night at the gala. For giving me a chance when you had no reason to. Vincent smiled, genuine and warm. Thank you for standing up when someone tried to push you down. For being brave enough to accept help. And for teaching me that not everything in life needs to be a power play. Below them, the city hummed with life. Somewhere in Queens, families were eating dinner in apartments like Maya used to live in. In the Bronx, kids were doing homework at community centers now funded by Maya's restructured programs. In Manhattan, people who had once looked down on her now respected her work. Maya Rodriguez had been transformed, not by wealth or status, but by the chance to be herself fully and the courage to take it. 2 years later, Maya stood in the ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, but this time everything was different. She wore a custom emerald gown that Sophie had helped pick out, her hair styled elegantly, diamond earrings that had been a gift from Vincent glinting under the chandeliers. But more importantly, she stood there with confidence earned through hard work and genuine achievement. The Maria Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship Fund's second annual gala was in full swing. Unlike the stuffy charity events Maya had once attended as an outsider, this one buzzed with authentic energy. Scholarship recipients mingled with donors, sharing their stories without shame or performance. Single parents pursuing degrees stood alongside business leaders, treated as equals rather than charity cases. Sophie, now 9 years old and growing into a confident, compassionate young woman, sat at a table with Vincent's nephew Marco, both of them giggling over something on a tablet. The fear that had haunted her after the threats 2 years ago had faded, replaced by the security of knowing she was protected, loved, and valued. Maya Angela Corso approached, tablet in hand. The silent auction is exceeding projections. We've already raised 2 million, and the evening isn't half over. That's incredible, Maya said, scanning the numbers. Have the board members from the community organizations arrived? They're at table 7, networking with potential corporate sponsors. Angela smiled. Your mother would be so proud of what you've built. Maya's eyes misted. She always believed everyone deserved a chance. I'm just making sure more people get one. Across the room, Vincent was deep in conversation with city council members and business leaders. He caught Maya's eye and winked, a private gesture that made her heart flutter even after 2 years together. Their relationship had weathered scrutiny, judgment, and the constant complications of Vincent's world, but it had also deepened into something unshakable. They had moved in together 6 months ago, a decision made carefully with Sophie's input and feelings prioritized. Vincent had proven himself patient, consistent, and genuinely committed to building a family rather than just a relationship. He attended Sophie's school plays, helped with homework, and treated her daughter with a tenderness that sometimes brought Maya to tears. Ms. Rodriguez, a young woman approached hesitantly. I'm Jennifer Martinez. I received the Maria Rodriguez Scholarship last year. Maya turned with a warm smile. Jennifer, of course. You're studying social work at Hunter College, right? Jennifer nodded, her eyes bright. Because of the scholarship, I didn't have to work full-time while studying. I maintained a 3.8 GPA and just got accepted into the graduate program. I wanted to thank you personally. This scholarship changed my life. You changed your life, Maya corrected gently. The scholarship just removed some barriers. Your dedication and hard work did the rest. After Jennifer walked away, Maya felt a hand on her lower back. Vincent had materialized beside her, as he often did, with that uncanny ability to sense when she needed him close. You're crying, he observed softly. Happy tears. Maya wiped her eyes carefully, mindful of her makeup. 2 years ago, I was that girl, desperate for a chance. Now I get to provide chances to others. It's overwhelming sometimes. Vincent pulled her closer, unbothered by the hundreds of eyes in the room. You've created something remarkable, Maya. This fund, the community programs, the policy changes you've influenced. You've done in 2 years what most people don't accomplish in a lifetime. We've done it, Maya corrected. Your resources, your protection, your belief in me made all of this possible. My resources are just money. Vincent's voice was warm with affection. Your vision, your empathy, your refusal to accept the status quo as permanent, that's what transformed those resources into real change. The evening's program began with Maya taking the stage. 2 years ago, public speaking had terrified her. Now, she commanded the room with natural authority. Good evening, everyone. 2 years ago, I attended a charity gala in this very hotel. I wore a dress from Target, shoes with scuffed toes, and felt completely out of place among the wealth and glamour. A woman told me I didn't belong, that I didn't meet the standards expected at such events. The room was silent, attentive. She was right about one thing. I didn't belong in a space where charity was about social climbing and tax deductions rather than genuine help. So instead of changing myself to fit that world, I decided to change what charity looks like. Maya gestured to the scholarship recipients scattered throughout the room. These young people are the reason we're here. Not as props for photo opportunities, not as feel-good stories to make donors feel generous, but as the actual purpose of our work. They're pursuing education, building careers, and breaking cycles of poverty. Our job is simply to remove obstacles and provide support. She paused, her voice strengthening. The Maria Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship Fund has provided full educational support to 43 students in 2 years. But beyond scholarships, we've partnered with community centers to provide after-school programs, meal assistance, tutoring, and mental health services. We've created pathways for single parents to complete their education while supporting their families. And we've done it by treating recipients as partners in their own success, not passive recipients of charity. The applause was thunderous. Maya continued with the evening's program, announcing expanded initiatives and introducing scholarship recipients who shared their journeys without shame or sanitization. These were real stories of struggle and triumph, unpolished and powerful. When Eleanor Whitmore approached during the cocktail reception afterward, Maya was surprised but composed. Eleanor looked older, her confidence diminished, her designer gown somehow less impressive than it had seemed 2 years ago. "Ms. Rodriguez," Eleanor began, her voice lacking its former condescension. "I wanted to apologize, truly apologize, for how I treated you that night. I've been watching your work, and I'm ashamed of how I behaved.